Ask Reddit by Stellenbosch. What technology did 10-year-old you think would already exist by now? Household assistant robots. This wasn't some crazy out of left field thing. When I was a kid in the 1980s there were robots that could wander around a house and do various things. I figured that eventually these technologies would just mature to the point where everyone would have an assistant in the house that did cleaning, cooking, laundry, etc. Robot chefs and housekeepers, man. That was my answer. When I was a kid, I wanted a robot that would do my chores, clean my room, or bring me a bowl of soup from the kitchen. Hell, I'm 26 now and still wouldn't mind having that. I thought they would get rid of that time lag when the news anchor talks to the field reporter. Gonna have to change the laws of physics for that one. Flying cars. I came to say the same damn thing. I've heard that they're just about ready for decades. 50s kid here. Starships with blasters and tractor beams. Gonna have to wait until sometime between now and 40k for that. Marty McFly's mom's magical pizza hydrator machine. And X200B. Also the hoverboard. And X200B. Pretty much Back to the Future too. I always thought hoverboards would be real and affordable. A moon colony. We already had the space stations in the 70s and 80s, so I figured this would happen by now. Space 1999. Cure for cancer. End to hunger. Non-fossil fuels being the dominant form of energy. Egg nuclear, solar, laser weapons. Recycling would save the planet. Or that more access to true information would inherently make humans act better. I have lost most hope in recycling, but reusing for sure. Full VR gaming. Like Sword Art Online type VR. Same here. I tried out a virtual reality pod back in the early 90s. I could tell it was far from ideal, but also really responsive even then. I felt fairly confident that by the time I was an adult, VR would be a lot more like how VR is portrayed in various Japanese anime. Fusion power. It's always just one major breakthrough away. It's what, just 10 years away? Some 30 years after I first heard that. The back button on the YouTube app to actually go back to my previous video instead of back to the search menu. Or a switch where you can turn off autoplay, and it actually stays that way forever. Spaceships. I figured by now we'd be regularly traveling to Mars or something. Not spaceships but spaceflight. Back in the 1960s I was certain that I would someday make several trips into Earth orbit for business trips. I'm still waiting. I was 10 in 1967. There was absolutely no technology from science fiction or my imagination that I wouldn't have thought would exist by 2024. High-speed rail California. Moon base. Treatments for illness disorders such as diabetes, Alzheimer's, cancers, diabetes, severe, etc. Yup, I was going to say diabetes in particular. When I was 10 my best friend was diagnosed with diabetes. The doctors told him that with the way things are going, they'll likely have a cure for diabetes in the next 10 years. This was in the 1980s. Real-time translators available to the public. Like a Babelfish? If not, Google Translate with the languages you need downloaded is a game changer for traveling. I was able to buy stuff in Arabic from a man who didn't speak English 10/10 would recommend. I spoke terrible Arabic and he spoke terrible English. We managed to have a whole conversation talking to each other with Google Translate, the app not the website. It does live by letting you type or talk to it and then hit an arrow and it plays it back in the other language and shows it typed on the screen. They can type talk in their language and do the same. I thought as soon as it became the year 2000 we'd have robot maids, hover boots, jetpacks and flying cars. Like everything was the same the 31st of December 1999, but the 1st of January 2000 would be the Jetsons. Medical scanners, Star Trek recorder which will tell you anything that is medically wrong with a person. And then sick bay, which in my mind was a tube that people got put into for hours or days to fix all the medical problems. Here's something wild. For the 30-ish years of my life I couldn't wait for video phones. Now that we have it, I almost never use it and kinda hate it, lol. Time machines. I used to leave notes for myself in the hopes adult me would show up. Eventually I figured either it wasn't gonna happen or I'd eventually turn into a selfish prick. And as it turns out, maybe it did, just in an alternate reality where the timeline is different. A theory I heard about is somehow nature basically preserves the timeline by making the events occur in an alternate reality to preserve the timeline of the universe you came from. Self-driving cars that are connected to street lights and the other self-driving cars around to avoid traffic entirely. Pan Am shuttles to the moon. Sure, they wouldn't be cheap, but I thought surely we would have a moon base and regular trips to that base. You had me at Pan Am. The ability to put an image in a Word document without everything getting messed up. Same with the ability to put left to right and right to left text on the same line. Food pills. Take your protein pills and put your helmet on. A pill that makes you shit out all your fat cells over one really bad weekend. Read the Amazon reviews for sugar-free gummy bears. We're already living in the future, man.